Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen, and in this video I'm going to be doing my March reading wrap-up. Harry, really? That was Harry. So I read 4 books this month, one of which was a bonus read for the month and turned out to be a 5-star read. So first off this month I read a little bit more of Lewis Carroll's collected works. This time around I read College Rhymes and Notes by an Oxford Cheel, Acrostics, Inscriptions, and Other Verse, and 3 Sunsets and Other Poems, which was by far the best of the 3 things. The first 2 things were weird, but 3 Sunsets and Other Poems was okay, as Lewis Carroll goes. And next up I'm reading Stories, so that one will once again probably be a while. But yeah, again, I'm just kind of slogging my way through this one. But the first book that I read in March was Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay, which I read for Women's History Month. I've been wanting to read this one for a long time, and I finally got around to it. This is a book of just feminist essays, and I first found out about Roxane Gay on AMC's after special that they'd have each week after this show called Dietland, and she seemed really cool whenever she was on an episode of that little after show thing that they had. And so I had wanted to read Bad Feminist for a long time. And I'll admit, section 1 was a bit blah for me. It felt kind of all over the place, which I realize it's just a bunch of different essays, but even taking that into consideration, it just kind of felt all over the place, and nothing was feeling particularly groundbreaking to me. And also a lot of the pop culture things that she was discussing in the beginning part of the book were things that I hadn't watched or read. Like, I haven't watched Girls, so the essay that was about girls was fine, but not something that I have a lot of knowledge about. The first chapter that I really found interesting was the chapter about likability and whether or not characters need to be likable. And then soon after that, we got the first pop culture reference that I really recognized, which was the Hunger Games, so that was exciting. The 50 Shades of Grey / Twilight chapter was funny and also kind of fun to read because I am in the process of rereading Twilight right now. I really enjoyed the chapter about the movie Fruitvale Station, which was directed by Ryan Coogler. I thought that was a really good, interesting essay, and it was kind of nice because Ryan Coogler has gone on to be so successful since Fruitvale Station. So that was a chapter that, with now future perspective, you just feel so happy that this director has gotten to continue to be successful. And throughout the book, Roxane is kind of talking about how she enjoys these things that aren't necessarily the most feminist, like Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey and stuff like that. And I also kind of got to sit in that uncomfortableness a little bit with the chapter about The Help, because I personally enjoy the book and the movie, but much like Twilight and 50 Shades have these glaring issues, so does The Help. But yeah, it's also just exhausting to read about all of the issues that we're already aware of and just never seem to get fixed. So yes, an interesting read, not as groundbreaking as I went into it hoping it would be, but definitely still something that some people could benefit from reading. So next, as I mentioned, after that, I read New Moon by Stephenie Meyer, which I'll say, Bella as a character immediately is so much more exhausting in the sequel than she was in the first book. In the first book, as I mentioned in my monthly wrap-up last month, she was kind of a delight. But in this one, she just is constantly devaluing herself on just basic human levels, and it gets so exhausting and annoying and ridiculous and all of the bad adjectives. And she really just generally needs to sort out her priorities, not just with herself, but also with this kind of double standard that she has going with the werewolves and the vampires. Because in the first book, she doesn't give a shit if vampires kill people or not. But in this book, when she finds out that Jacob is a werewolf and thinks that he's killing people, that is it for her, as it should be, to be clear. But it just, throughout her thought process when she thinks about the werewolves and the vampires don't match up. It was really great not having Edward around for most of this book. Like I mentioned again last month, forgot how terrible he is, or just didn't realize how terrible he was when I was younger, and now I do. So not having to listen to him emotionally manipulate Bella the whole time was a relief. I still find the backstories in the Twilight series to consistently be like the most interesting parts of the books. Maybe because we don't get 500 pages of backstory. Because once again, this one is 500 pages, and with this one I even more feel like it wasn't necessary. But all that being said, still a fun read, still enjoying the reread. They're dumb fluff books that are at times obnoxious, but also entertaining. And then finally, I fit in an extra unexpected read this month, and it turned out to be a 5-star read. And that was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This one was a part of my 5-star TBR prediction video that I did. I went through all of my TBR and for each individual book said whether or not I thought it would be 5 stars. And this is one that I did not think would be 5 stars. It's a science fiction, which is not my top genre. I picked this one up mostly because it has a beautiful cover and I'd heard a lot about it and Brandon Sanderson. I've never read a Brandon Sanderson before. But yeah, being a space sci-fi, I was like, for me, this is probably gonna be more like 3 stars, even though for many other people it is 5 stars. But wow, did I love it. It has a great setup in part 1. It's got great, interesting characters. I love pretty much all of the characters. The characters are really well developed and they do things that make sense for their character, like her friend Rig, when he quits flight school. That was very unsurprising because it fits so well with his character. And so I feel like the book had good twists, but at the same time, never in a way that it was like, oh, well, this doesn't make sense for the story or the character. I was so glad that our main character, Spensa, isn't automatically good at flying. This book is about people who are living on an alien planet and they're constantly being attacked by aliens, and so like the #1 pinnacle job that everyone wants is to be a fighter pilot to fight the aliens. And that is our main character's entire life ambition, and I so loved that she wasn't just automatically way better at it than everyone else, as so often happens with main characters. My very favorite character was the plane that Spensa finds that has an artificial intelligence. His name is Mbot, and he loves mushrooms, and he's funny and adorable. There was a lot of mystery set up in the book, and there's this great, exciting thing that happens at the end that I was expecting half of it, but not the other half. And so I was still surprised, even though I was partly expecting it, which was great. And yeah, this was my first 5-star read of the year, my first new read that is a 5-star read. I didn't have any new reads last year that were 5-star reads. The last new 5-star read that I had was The First Girl Child, and this is 2 years ago. So it was very exciting to have a new 5-star read. And I'm really excited for the series, which I will be picking up next year, because I'm weird like that. But yeah, these are all of the books that I read in March. Let me know down below what you've been reading this month. Have you read any feminist reads for Women's History Month? I hope you enjoyed watching. Remember, words matter.